What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development, and today I have the follow-up deck analysis from the deck featured last week on our channel, the Brigade Punk DPE Adventurer deck, all piled together in our clean 40-card list. And before we hop into it, as always, a quick shout-out to our new subs of the channel, Slackman, Endrick, Kai, Sanctum, Omar, Sir, Corey, Jace, Van, Gleb, Russell, AC, Ojama, Artistic, Sebastian, thank you all so much for joining the channel. Excited to have you here. Excited to have you stick around and grow together. And as always, if you want to be included in the next sub shout out, just make sure your subscriptions are public so that I can see who you are when we sub. And then we will be, of course, doing our next big subscriber giveaway when we hit our 400 sub mark. With that said, let's not waste any more time. We're going to hop into the main part of the video. We'll go through a little bit of the math about the deck, some basic interactions, some test hands, and then we will wrap it up from there. So we want to go ahead and jump into the math real quick. Just a few things to kind of note based on how this deck is built, because there is a lot going on here. I want to make sure I cover all my bases just so you get an idea of your chances of seeing certain pieces of the deck, both separate and together. The first part is the main piece that Brigade revolves around in this deck is Kerass. Since we can't use our normal summon effect, we have to special Kerass and use that ability there. So we have 28 different names that are a discard for Kerass, meaning any beast, beast warrior, or wing beast, or a way to get to one of those names. So we always have that live. That is a 99.8% chance that we will always open up at least one of those discards for Kerass in our 5-card hand. In terms of the punk, we run 8 names specifically. That gets us around a 69% chance to hit one of those punk engines. And for the adventurer piece, we have 7 names that are worth noting, meaning we have 3 water enchantress, 3 right, and 1 foolish burial. All 7 of those are what get our combo started and end on the guaranteed omni negate. So that's about 64% there. But the important thing, right, is when you combine that punk and that adventurer engine together, that's a 15-card total, getting us a little bit around 92%. So we're at least seeing one of those 2 pieces no matter what. So we have a way to play the game. So we're looking at either punk or adventurer together is about 92%. And then in terms of ways to search Kerass, we have 13 different ways, including the additional copy of Kerass to get that name on the board. That puts us at around 87%. The magic number is usually 14 to get that 9 out of 10 chance, that 90%. So if you want, you can obviously, of course, bump Kerass up to 3, or you could add a card like Firefist Raven in on screen that when it is sent from the field to the grave, searches Tenki, which obviously then gets us Fractal, Kit, Nerval, and by extension Kerass. So there are ways to boost that piece of consistency if you want. I've not really had a problem with it since we already play so many names as is. It's not a big deal. But if you want that guaranteed chance, that is one way you can do it. And then, of course, in terms of starters, so cards that by themselves that will create a line of play that ends on either a negate or a disruption, we have 11 of those in the main deck, and we have 12 pseudo starters, which are cards that we can basically pair with our starter to enhance our end board, getting us an additional negate, an additional threat, but are just cards that raise the deck ceiling dramatically when you pair them with a starter. So again, that's our other magic number. That's the 23 total there between our 11 starters and 12 pseudo starters. That gives us at least a 99% to see one of those pieces going first out of that 23 group of cards. And we have a 90% chance of seeing at least 2 from that group of 23 cards going first as well. So no matter what, we built this deck to say that we are going to be able to play the game and we're going to be able to play it well. So with that said, let's go ahead and hop into some of the niche interactions with the deck and the engines. All right, we'll go ahead and demonstrate just some of the quick interactions that this deck does that are pretty noteworthy. I usually do this on Dueling Book, but it's been a little bit wonky today, so I'll just go ahead and showcase it here with the cards themselves. The main interaction you want to know as it relates to the Punk and the Brigade blended together is you want to see any way to a piece of the Punk engine and any way to a piece of the Brigade engine. So in this case, I'm just using Foxy and Kit, but you can do anything along the lines here. So the main piece, right, is we will use Foxy's effect. You can discard that along with a Brigade name, which is Kit. Kit would allow us to send one more name from our deck to the grave on resolution in a new chain after we resolve Foxy Tune to then summon Z Ammon from our deck. That name is usually going to be Nerval, and Nerval's effect will then search, allowing us to add from our deck to our hand a copy of the Kerass. So now you're looking at a Kerass in hand and a Z Ammon on field. You can use Z Ammon's effect by paying 600 life points to add another copy of Foxy Tune directly from your deck to your hand. This is just important because we have names right now for discarding for Kerass. So it's basically paying for itself. From there, you can use Kerass's effect, discarding the Foxy Tune to special the Kerass. I'm just going to slide this over just a little bit. And so now the thing that of note that matters is you are working with 4 different targets here that you can get rid of for Kerass. So you can have Shureg right off the bat if you want. You might not always have Kit, but you'll always have at least 2 targets to banish no matter what. So you can banish 2 of those, right, to go into your extra deck monster of choice. Typically that can either be DDL or Bear Brum, depending on the amount of cards you have in your hand, whether you want to search for Revolt or you just want the direct piece of interruption right there. So it's going to be one of these 2 guys right here, either Bear Brum or Revolt, or sorry, Bear Brum to get the Revolt or our Double Dragon Lord. And then the last piece is Z Ammon is obviously a tuner, Tri-Brigade Kerass is not, level 3 and level 2, both Earth. So you can get rid of those to end on a Naturia Beast. That's kind of the main piece of synergy that the Punk has together with the Tri-Brigade, is ending on a really powerful card like Nat Beast. Now, with that said, it's not as great, obviously, right now, just because everyone is main decking Droplet or siding Dark Ruler near more. But again, they have to see it, right? You have the ability to make this whenever you want. But again, if they have it, they have it. But this is kind of the cool interaction that you can at least do with those 2 cards, is you're ending on a Nat Beast, plus some form of follow-up, whether it's Double Dragon Lord or Bear Brum to get your Revolt. So that's interaction 1. Interaction 2 is related again to hitting a card like, specifically in this case, either Foxy or Emergency Teleport, because again, we don't want to use normal summon effects in comparison with our Water Enchantress. Foxy is just a free discard. So, you know, whether you do E-Telly into Ammon and then into Foxy and then into another Ammon, that's one route. But again, it just basically discards this, puts Z Ammon again on the board, and then makes your Brave package live. So we'll skip a couple steps just to mention the one thing of note, just make sure we save time. So typically you're going to do your Brave combo, and then you'll obviously end on the Z Ammon thanks to the Punk engine, as well as your Brave token and your Wandering Griffin Rider. The one thing that really matters, I guess, of note is just so you're aware, again, it won't typically come up because ideally Griffin is already live, but again, Z Ammon being a non-tuner level 3, a tuner level 3, and Wandering Griffin Rider being a non-tuner level 7 is just another free access point to a Synchro 10 of your choice. Most notably is Baron. Baron is also worth noting in this deck because if Griffin Rider does happen to get stopped or you end up using it for whatever reason, you can also use Baron, get rid of it, put it back in the standby phase, and then re-special summon the Griffin Rider. So it's a little bit of extra recyclability if you're only really wanting to stay locked into the one Griffin Rider for your build. So that's interaction 2, just something neat to note there. And then interaction 3, as a bit of a bonus, is something unique that I've started to test, but have not fully updated the deck, so I'm not 100% where I want to be with it, so it's not ready to showcase just yet. But I'd like to point it out is obviously a big thought is where we go when Hulk, if that gets touched, whether 01 gets hit, Hulk actually gets hit finally. You need another way to abuse this engine and utilize it by itself if it wasn't just Nat Beast or Hulk, right? So the route that you can take with the Punk engine and or the adventurers in this deck is the Ghost Trick line that ends you on Utopic Draco Future F0. So that is a really powerful card you can end on. Obviously, just any two level 3s get you to that play. So that's where Water Enchantress comes in as an extender. And that's also where a card like Z Ammon, if you don't open any of the Brave stuff and you want to utilize it as a normal summon, you can to then get you straight into Utopic Future is just something I've thought about. In the deck, in main deck, it only requires one engine requirement in the form of one spell, Ghost Trick Shot. I'll go ahead and just showcase that really quick just so you can see the basic interaction. And I'm sure you've probably seen this through MBT's channel, but I figured I'd at least show it. Any two level 3s get you Alucard, and then you overlay automatically into the Angel of Mischief. Angel of Mischief detaches 1 to search a Ghost Trick spell or trap from your deck to your hand. It's very important that you detach Alucard specifically. You'll add the Ghost Trick Shot. This is just a monster reborn for a Ghost Trick monster. So you use the shot, bring back the Alucard, and then you can re-overlay again into another Angel of Mischief. The summon of this is not a hard once per turn by any means. And then from there, you obviously have 2 monsters with the exact same rank that you can then overlay and clear up a little space here into the little F0 for our regular Utopic Future. and then obviously into the big F-Zero Utopic Future Draco, or Utopic Draco Future, sorry. So that's just another quick, neat interaction you can do. If you're also looking for something that's not the DPE package that you want to play in this deck, that's a little bit more relatively affordable, this is a really easy way to do it. You know, this is 35 bucks compared to, you know, 120 at this point for DPE plus Fusion Destiny and the bricks and all that deal. So if you're looking for something different that's a little bit more budget friendly as well, this is still also a really powerful alternative. And you can buy, you can also boost up this engine too if you want to add in a card like Zeus as well. So there's a lot more flexibility here, but again, just something else that you can do to really utilize and abuse the Punk engine in this deck. So with that, we will go ahead and hop into our test hands. All right, so let's go ahead and hop into our test hands. Made sure to make sure the battery is all good to go this time, and we have a full set of recording time. We'll give this a quick shuffle up, a quick cut, and then we'll see what we are working with here. So we're starting off with a Droplet, a Fractal, a Griffin Rider, a Wright, and a Nerval. This is pretty much exactly what you would expect. This is going to be Brave plus Tri-Brigade. There's nothing special here, but just a basic showcase of here's how Tri-Brigade plays under Brave, I think is going to be important. So typically I always start with the Brave stuff. So we'll activate Rite of Aramasir. We will go ahead and place our Fateful Adventure in our Spell or Trap zone. If I can find that, we'll go ahead and place that there. We'll get our token. And then from there, what we will do is we will go ahead and discard the Fractal. Actually, since we already hard opened the Griffin Rider, I completely forgot. We can just special this now and go ahead and use the Fateful Adventure just to add the equip spell. Typically, you're searching that, but in this case, we don't have to, and it's not the end of the world. And then we obviously activate Fractal, and then we use Fractal's effect to go ahead and let's see here. We will dump the Kit, and then Kit's effect. We'll dump Nerval, and then Nerval's effect will add us a Kerass from our deck to our hand. And there is one other additional insulative play that you can do that I'll point out in just a second. From here, we can go ahead and discard the Nerval for Kerass, and then Kerass effect we can banish two to special summon. In this case, we're going to do double Dragon Lords from our extra deck to our field. So we will go ahead and grab that. And that's the basic end board. Obviously, you can play around this a little bit differently. Depending on how they stop this or how you want to mess with things, you can obviously take Anaconda as a route as well. But again, this is just the basic idea, right? Is that you can do the Adventurer stuff, and the Tri-Brigade stuff can happen because of Kerass, because you've not used your normal summon. So that's just a quick basic showcase of the interaction between Brave and the Tri-Brigade piece. All right, let's go ahead and shuffle up and hop into our second test hand. I think that was a good, worthwhile showcase of just the absolute basic foundation of where the premise of the deck came from, is how you can utilize Tri-Brigade with DPE. So we shuffle this up, and then we'll see what we got here for test hand number 2. We open one of the bricks in the form of Celestial, Tactics, Wright, Kit, and Fractal. So again, this is just going to be Tri-Brigade plus Brave. But we can maybe do this a little bit differently, and I'm going to kind of try to showcase how a little bit. So we'll go ahead and start with the Right. As always, get the token. We'll go ahead and slide our hand a little bit closer and just a little bit over to make a little bit of room. And then we'll go ahead and place the Fateful Adventure here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and just normal summon the Kit. And zone management matters a little bit in this deck. I typically try to play all to one side just so you don't accidentally mess anything up. But then from there, we can go ahead and trigger the Fateful Adventure to add our Draco back. And then you could do more things from here, but since we have access to the Griffin Rider now, we're going to do it just to make sure that we have the ability to do so and insulate our plays moving forward. So we'll add the Griffin Rider, discard the Draco back, and then obviously equip the Draco back, and then special the Griffin Rider after that as a resolution in a new chain. And now our plays are insulated. So what we can do from here are a couple different things. We could go ahead and link away into Almirage, which is something I'm going to go ahead and do. So we'll go ahead and make that Almirage here, and there will be a little bit of a reason why as we get farther in. So then we can use Kit's effect, and then this is pretty standard here. We can dump Nerval, and then we can go ahead and add the Kerass. Now from here, what we can do is we can discard the fractal in our hand to special the Kerass. And then from here, we have insulated ourselves quite well because we can now Kerass by banishing 2. And in this case, we're going to make Farigite. And obviously here is exact reason why I mentioned pay attention to your zones, because I already screwed it up. I'm blocking Almirage. So in reality, Kerass should be here. It's just a little bit awkward because you're putting a lot of things on board, but just make sure you note that and don't do what I did. But yeah, we'll go ahead and put Farigite here. And if you want to make it even more proper, Kerass really should be over there, but I don't think that was possible at that given moment. But just as an example, right? So we put Farigite here, and the other neat thing is we're already insulated, so if they hit this with a Veiler or Imperm or something like that, and we want to save the Griffin Rider, we can still get rid of these two into an Anaconda and be fine. So that's kind of the important thing about using Kit for Almirage in this case, is a little bit more insulated. But then from here, we can still do the Anaconda play. We'll get rid of both Kerass and Farigite for our Anaconda from our extra deck. And then Farigite will trigger in a new chain, allowing us to draw 1 and put back 1, which is why running the Destiny Hero bricks do not feel as bad. So we draw an E-Telly, which is great, and then we can put this back on the bottom of our deck. And then we could pay for Anaconda right now, but we could actually wait. So the other thing to note is if you do choose to run the Ghost Trick engine, that's something that you can either do before all your plays, or you could even do it now since you have the space to do it. You have the E-Telly to get one of the Z-Ammons, and then you have the additional discard if you want to get rid of talents for the second one from adding Foxy Tune and go for the full Utopic Future line on top of all of this. You don't have to, but again, it's just another option of here's how you can play through additional boards. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and use the Anaconda, just dumping the 2 bricks and the fusion, paying 2k life obviously, and using that as a way to put our Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer on the board. So we'll go ahead and dump those 3 and then take our Phoenix Enforcer and put that out there. And if you want to clear up space, you can obviously just pop, some things here if you want, but you don't have to. Typically, I always recommend popping at least the Anaconda, so that way you're less vulnerable for super poly in the realm of like Starving Venom or things like that. So, but again, that's our basic board, right? An Omni Negate plus a pop with Phoenix Enforcer. So that's a little bit of an example of how you go kind of one step further, plus the Brave Negate. So you have a little bit more there and just a little bit more demonstration of how these interact. All right, we'll go ahead and give this a shuffle up into our third and final test hand. Would like to see some of the punk just to demonstrate that a little bit too. We've kind of gotten to demonstrate the blend of kind of gradually increasing here with Tri-Brigade, and then Tri-Brigade with our Adventure, and then DPE. So we're kind of blending as we go, and we'll look at our last test hand, see what we're working with. We have an E-Telly, which is great. We have Punk Access, Tactics, Nerval, fantastic, Dracoback, and a Water Enchantress. So this is definitely really solid. This gets us exactly where we need, and we have a few different things we can do here. And this is also another example of the Utopic Draco Future line, because you have a level 3 here and a level 3 here that you can utilize. You can obviously do the Utopic Draco Future line through just Emergency Teleport by getting 2 Z-Ammons on the board, but nevertheless something I still want to point out because it's just really cool. But we'll start with the Emergency Teleport. Well, actually, there's no reason I don't think to go ahead and start with the Brave engine. Might as well just do that to insulate ourselves from negates or bait out any hand traps. So we'll just do that, add our right, and then activate the right, and we will get ourselves the token and place our Fateful Adventure into our spell trap zone. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead and get our token. And then from here, we already hard opened the Dracoback, which is nice. So we can go ahead and just trigger the adventure now, since there's no reason not to. Typically, you don't really want to see it, but as a discard, there are definitely worse things to have in your hand. Add the Griffin, get rid of the Dracoback, and then in effect will equip itself. And then we can just go ahead and spit out the Griffin Rider. Now from here, it's a little bit different, but we are going to go ahead and activate our Emergency Teleport and go ahead and special the Z-Ammon from the deck. Z-Ammon's effect will activate, adding the Foxy Tune. And now from here, it's a little bit different, but obviously if you didn't want to go for the Brave right away, you wouldn't have to discard this extra copy of Tactics in your hand. You could have just went straight to discarding right. But since we wanted, or sorry, Water Enchantress, but since we wanted to insulate ourselves, I thought it was a little bit more important to put Griffin on the field. And if our opponent did hand trap us, we could always draw 2 to make up for that extra discard. But we do need to not get rid of Nerval in this case. Or sorry, we do need to have the extra name in our hand in this case. So what we can do here is we can do a few different things. Sorry, I just had to think through that for a split second. And again, you can make the Utopic Draco future line, but you don't have to. But I'm actually going to keep the Foxy in hand. I'm going to normal the Nerval and link it away into our Almirage. Go ahead and plop that here on the board. And then Nerval will trigger, allowing us to add our Kerass from our deck to our hand. And then from here, we have the name in our hand thanks to Foxy Tune. So again, you still can save the tactics, but it would look just a little bit better than what it did. But again, it's not the end of the world. So we can discard the Foxy, special the Kerass. And then from here, we can go ahead and do the Kerass by banishing 2 in the form of Foxy and Nerval, since Foxy is, of course, a beast. And then we can special summon a Link 2 of our choice. In this case, I am going to go ahead and just do the Double Dragon Lord, because why not? And then from here, we can synchro these 2 away into our Naturia Beast. And that is the end board option number 1. There is a second option that we can go into that I will go ahead and point out, but we'll have to rewind just a couple steps so you can see the interactions of how this works. So the other option that you have is to not use Kerass's effect. And we'll go ahead and put the Nat Beast back as well, just to demonstrate how you can use the other half of your extra deck here. So I believe we were working with something to the effect of this right here. And then, of course, we still have our 2 names in grave. So the other option we can do, and obviously I pointed out Hulk as one line of play, is we can just do Hulk instead, since we've not locked ourselves through the Tri-Brigade line. Hulk is one option you can do. So we'll go ahead and demonstrate that. We will go ahead and put Hulk out here. And then we'll go ahead and you can use Hulk if you want, but you don't have to. This is where if you want to run a slot for Ghost Ogre, you most certainly can. But in terms of space, I did not think it was needed. But again, you can put a card like ZM in here on the board if you want as a piece of insulation. But we're going to actually use it to kind of demonstrate how this gets us even further. So from here, we can go ahead and link the Z-Ammon and the Almirage away for our Anaconda. Go ahead and drop that there. And then we'll go ahead and use Anaconda's effect, paying our 2K and dumping the Fusion Destiny for cost, as well as the Celestial and the Dasher from our deck to the graveyard. There we go. And we'll go ahead and plop our DPE on the board. And arguably, this might be a little bit of a stronger line, depending on how you want to take it, but it's still important to show the Naturia Beast play nonetheless. So we'll go ahead and put our Phoenix Enforcer there. So this is a little bit different, but offers maybe just a little bit more, depending on how you look at it. So the pieces to note here that matter are, obviously we have the interruption through DPE, we have the interruption through Griffin Rider, and then on our opponent's turn, we can go ahead and activate Hulk, getting rid of itself for a card that I showcased last week in the profile, which is called Desert Locust. This is a Synchro Tuner level 6, and its effect is on summon, the turn player has to discard a card. So if you summon this on your opponent's turn, they have to discard a card. Yeah, it's their choice, but it still rips a card out of their hand nevertheless. So far out of their 6-card hand, if they didn't even hand trap us yet, we've taken care of 1 through Griffin, 1 through ideally Phoenix Enforcer, and 1 through Desert Locust. And then obviously after we've used the Griffin, on resolution, you can quick synchro with this guy because it is a level 6 tuner with that effect. With your Brave token that happens to be conveniently level 4, you'll get rid of those 2 for a synchro 10 in the form of Baron as another piece of negation. And then obviously if that lives on your opponent's turn, you can obviously Baron bring something back of your choice. Like the Kerass, for example, that we had not ended up using. And then that is live for next turn already as well. So, but with all that said, that is the deck analysis. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for joining the channel. Big shout out to our new subscribers once again, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.